just didn't know it yet. My name is Walter Pruitt. I'm 54 years old. For 26 years, I've run Pruitt Precision Parts out of a shop on the east side of Detroit, Michigan. We machine transmission components and brake system parts for Tier 1 automotive suppliers. The kind of work that ends up in the vehicles real people drive to work, drive their kids to school, drive home in the dark when the roads are wet and the visibility is nothing. I built this place with my hands, literally. The first bay we rented in 1998 had a roof that leaked in 3 spots and a CNC mill that sounded like it had gravel in the spindle. Earl Tatum and I had scraped together enough between us to make the first month's rent and buy cutting tools. That was it. No business school, no investors, no safety net, just 2 guys who knew how to hold a tolerance and believed that mattered. It still does. That's the whole point of this story. Donnie stepped onto the shop floor at 70:20 on a Tuesday morning. Slim fit jacket. Leather Oxford shoes that had never once touched a floor with grease on it. He was 31 years old and he had that look, the one young guys get when they think they've already won before the conversation starts. I was at the inspection bench checking torque specs on a batch of brake caliper housings, first Arctur run on a new fixture setup. The kind of thing you don't rush, because if your fixture offset is wrong on part 1, it's wrong on every part after it. I had my coffee in the old Ford mug I'd been using since 2004. The shop was running, machines humming the way they do when everything is dialed in right. Donnie didn't say good morning. He walked up and said my name like he was reading it off a termination form. Walter, we're letting you go, effective today. I set down my torque wrench, slow, not because I was trying to make a point, just because that's how you set down a precision tool. You don't drop it, you place it. I looked at him for a second. Who authorized that decision? I did, he said. Acting CEO. Full discretion over personnel. I want to tell you what went through my head in that moment, but honestly, it wasn't much. It was more like when you're running a part and the machine throws a fault code. You don't panic, you don't argue with the screen, you just start reading back through the sequence to find where it went wrong. And I already knew where this had gone wrong. I'd known for months. Donnie's father was Lloyd Mercer. Lloyd owned 22% of Pruitt Precision Parts. He'd come in during a tough stretch in 2014 when I needed capital to expand the mill floor. Smart investment, patient money. His stake had grown from $800,000 to something north of $5 million as the company's valuation climbed. I had no problem with Lloyd making money. That's how investment is supposed to work. The problem was that somewhere along the way, Lloyd started seeing the company differently. Not as a precision machining operation with real contracts and real craftsmen, but as a margin optimization opportunity. And when Donnie came back from a consulting firm in Chicago 9 months ago, Lloyd had installed him as acting CEO without a board vote, without documentation, without so much as an email to the other shareholders. Donnie walked in with a MacBook and a head full of supply chain theory and immediately started talking about moving production to Dongguan. Cut unit costs 40%, he said. Improve margins significantly. First week on the floor, he asked one of my machinists why we couldn't just order components pre-made from overseas and assemble them here for optics. That was the moment I understood exactly what I was dealing with. Through the shop windows behind Donnie, I could see my people working. Patrice Holloway at the QC station, still running parts through the coordinate measuring machine with the same focus she'd had since her first week 11 years ago. Hank Bowman at the 5-axis mill, keeping his head down, pretending not to watch. 23 people on that floor. Most of them had been with me for over a decade. People who knew what a warranty return actually costs, not just in dollars, but in reputation, in contracts, in the trust that takes years to build and one bad batch to lose. We hadn't had a single warranty return in 14 months. You don't have authority to remove a founding officer, I said. My voice was level. That requires a 2/3 majority board vote, documented in writing, with 30 days advance written notice. That's in the shareholder agreement. Page 11, Donnie smiled. Board's already aligned, Walter. We're moving production to Dongguan, cutting unit costs 40%, improving margins significantly. This isn't a debate. I looked at him one more time. Then I pulled off my work gloves, folded them the way you fold something you're going to pick back up again, set them on the bench next to the torque wrench. Understood, I said. His expression shifted just slightly. He'd been ready for a fight, ready for negotiating, maybe some raised voices, the kind of scrambling older guys do when they feel the floor drop out from under them. What he wasn't ready for was nothing. I walked past him without another word. Nodded at Patrice on the way. Pushed through the side door into the parking lot. My Silverado was in the same spot it had been in since 2009, right by the employee entrance, where I could watch my people come and go every morning. I'd parked there on purpose from day one, not because it was close to the door, but because I wanted everyone to know the owner showed up first and left last. I got in, closed the door, didn't start the engine, just sat there. The shop noise came through the walls in a low, steady hum. 3 CNC mills running, probably the Mazak on Bay 4 doing the caliper housing batch I'd just left. You learn to read a shop by its sound the same way you read an engine. Normal operation has a rhythm, and anything off that rhythm tells you something before the fault code ever fires. Right now, everything sounded normal. My people were still working. Good. I put both hands on the steering wheel and looked at the building. 26 years. Started in a leaky bay with Earl Tatum and a spindle that sounded like it was eating itself. We'd worked 80-hour weeks for the first 3 years straight, not because we were grinding for some startup dream, just because that's what it took to build a reputation from nothing. First contract was a small run of transmission brackets for a Tier 2 supplier in Flint, $34,000 total. We were so happy we bought a case of beer and drank it in the shop after the delivery truck left. My father had run a small tool and die shop for 22 years. Good shop. Real work. In 2001, he brought in an outside partner who promised growth capital and fresh connections to the OEM market. The partner lasted 14 months. By the time he walked, he'd restructured the supplier agreements, cut 2 senior machinists to save on payroll, and convinced my father to defer equipment maintenance for a year to improve the quarterly numbers. The shop folded 6 months after the partner left. I helped my father load the machines into a liquidation truck on a Thursday morning in November. He didn't say much. Neither did I. I bought back 2 of those machines at the auction that Friday, paid $11,000 for both, put them in the rented bay where Pruitt Precision started. So when Donnie Mercer stood on my shop floor and used the word optimize, I knew exactly what that word really meant. I'd seen it before. I knew how it ended. I reached into the back seat and pulled out my laptop bag. First thing I pulled up was the shareholder agreement. Original document drafted at a Coney Island diner on Michigan Avenue in 1998. Earl and I had sat in a corner booth for 4 hours with a legal pad and a pot of bad coffee. The fluorescent light above us flickered the whole time. We wrote the whole foundation right there, ownership terms, officer protections, buy-sell provisions, all of it. Loretta Crane, my attorney, had formalized it into proper legal language the following week, but the substance came from that booth. Page 11. Section 7, subsection B. No founding officer may be removed from their position without a 2/3 majority vote of the board of directors, documented in writing and delivered with no fewer than 30 days advance written notice to said officer. Donnie hadn't given me 30 days. He hadn't given me 30 minutes. I took a screenshot, opened a new email, taped in all 6 board member addresses. Subject line, shareholder agreement violation, emergency board meeting required. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., body, 1 sentence. Section 7, subsection B, requires your immediate attention. Hit send. Watched it go. Then I opened the second file, the one I kept updated every single quarter without exception. Equity distribution report for Pruitt Precision Parts. Every share, every transaction, every transfer from the day we incorporated to the present. Earl had started with 40% when we founded the company. Over the years, dilution from outside investors and the employee stock option program had brought him down to 26% by the time he retired to Tennessee 4 years ago. He sold me every one of his shares at fair market value. No negotiation, no pressure. He just called me one afternoon and said, "Walter, I want you to have them. I don't want some stranger ending up with a piece of what we built." We shook hands over the phone and Loretta drew up the paperwork. After Earl left, I kept buying. Quietly. No announcements, no drama. Pete Langley had been an early investor, came in during our first round in 2009 with $200,000. Good money at the right time. By 2020, he was ready to diversify. Nervous about manufacturing exposure after the pandemic. I offered him fair market value. He took it. Clyde Rutherford held a small board position stake, 3%, picked up during a refinancing in 2017. When he mentioned offhand at a dinner that he was consolidating his investment portfolio, I called him the next morning. Gary Simmons, one of my original machinists who'd taken options over the years instead of raises, needed cash when his wife got sick in 2021. I paid him $18 for his 4% stake, didn't lowball him by $1. Every single transaction was at fair market value. Everyone was properly documented and filed with the state. I never pressured anyone. I never timed an offer to take advantage of someone in a hard spot. I just made fair deals when people were ready to move, but I also never announced what I was doing. That part was deliberate. By the time Donnie Mercer walked onto my shop floor that Tuesday morning, I owned 58% of Pruitt Precision Parts. Lloyd Mercer owned 22%. The remaining 20% was spread across the board in employee options, 58%. Not 51, not 55, 58%. I stared at that number on the screen for a long moment. Outside the truck, a pair of pigeons landed on the roof edge of the shop, looked around, and flew off. Then I made 2 calls. First call, Loretta Crane. 14 years as my corporate attorney. She picked up on the second ring, which meant she'd already seen the email. "Talk to me," she said. "Donnie Mercer terminated me this morning. No board vote, no documentation, no 30-day notice. He wants to move all production to Dongguan." I heard her pen tap once on her desk. That's what she does when she's working through angles. You know what? 58% gets you in that room tomorrow. I do. And you know what moving automotive production offshore does to your Ford contract. That's my second call. Short pause. Don't let them see you coming, Walter. Second call, Virgil Stanton, Director of Procurement at Ford Motor. 55 years old, started on the plant floor in Dearborn, worked his way up over 28 years. Old school Ford, the kind of man who still showed up to supplier visits in person because he believed you couldn't evaluate a shop from a spreadsheet. He'd signed our supply agreement 4 years ago after we hit 18 consecutive months of 0 warranty returns. We'd had lunch twice a year since then, always at the same diner on Woodward Avenue. I explained what was happening. I asked if he'd be willing to attend a board meeting the following morning. He was quiet for a moment. I could hear him thinking, "Walter, you know our domestic manufacturing compliance clause doesn't have any flex in it. Any supplier that moves production offshore without Ford's prior written approval loses the contract." Same week. No cure period, no negotiation window. "I know," I said. "I just need you to say that out loud." In a room with Lloyd Mercer sitting across the table. Another pause. "What time?" 9 a.m. "I'll be there." I closed the laptop, started the truck, pulled out of the parking lot onto the street and drove toward downtown to find a coffee shop where I could spread out for a few hours and build everything I needed for tomorrow morning. I found a coffee shop on Woodward Avenue that had corner tables and didn't play music loud enough to think over. Ordered black coffee. No cream, no sugar. Same way I'd been drinking it since my first week on a shop floor at 19 years old. Sat down, opened the laptop, and went to work. First, I pulled together every document I'd need for the morning. Shareholder agreement, full copy with Section 7 highlighted. Equity distribution report, updated through yesterday. The original articles of incorporation that Earl and I had filed in 1998. Board meeting minutes from the past 18 months, specifically, the ones that showed no formal vote had ever been taken on Donnie Mercer's appointment as acting CEO. Not a single agenda item, not a single recorded motion. Just Lloyd Mercer's assumption that because he owned 22% and had been talking to a few board members over dinner, the thing was understood. Corporate governance doesn't run on understandings. Loretta had said that to me once early on when I'd asked her why we needed so much paperwork for decisions that seemed obvious. Because when things go wrong, she'd said, the only thing that matters is what's written down. She was right then. She was going to be very right tomorrow morning. Second, I pulled up the Ford supply agreement. Read through the domestic manufacturing compliance clause one more time, even though I already knew it by memory. The language was clear. Any transfer of production to a facility outside the United States without prior written approval from Ford's procurement division constituted a material breach. Contract terminated immediately, no cure period, no appeal window. The $2.8 million annual contract, plus the $4.1 million expansion we'd been in discussions about for the following fiscal year, gone. I printed both documents at the library 2 blocks down, put them in a folder, and ordered a second coffee. Around noon, my phone buzzed text from an unknown number. Took me a second to realize it was from Donnie's assistant. Final separation paperwork will be ready Friday. Please return all company property by end of week. I read it twice. Set the phone face down on the table. Kid really thought it was over. Around 2 in the afternoon, Earl Tatum called from Tennessee. Word traveled fast in the Detroit machining community. Always had. Someone on the floor had probably texted a friend at another shop before I'd even made it to the parking lot. "What the hell is going on up there?" he said. I could hear a socket wrench in the background. He was probably in his garage working on that '72 Chevelle he'd been restoring for 3 years. I told him everything, start to finish. He listened without interrupting, which was typical Earl. He didn't talk until he had the full picture. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then, Lloyd Mercer really didn't look at the equity reports. Apparently not. And Donnie walked in there thinking he was the one holding the cards. He did? Another pause. The socket wrench stopped. "Walter, you know I sold you those shares because I trusted you to keep this place what it is. Not what some kid with a MacBook thinks it should be. I know that, Earl. What do you need from me tomorrow?" "I need you on a video call at 9 a.m., and I need you to be ready to make a motion. Wouldn't miss it," he said. I'll put the Chevelle down for one morning. I drove home around 5. Carol's car was already in the driveway. She'd gotten off her shift at Henry Ford Hospital early. She was in the kitchen when I came in, still in her scrubs, making tea. She looked at me, looked at the folder under my arm. "How bad?" "Not bad," I said. "Just a different kind of day than I planned." She nodded and didn't push. That's one of the things I've always respected about Carol. She doesn't need you to perform your problems out loud. She just needs to know you're handling it. I set up at the kitchen table with my Maxwell house and worked for another 3 hours, built the full board presentation, organized every document in the order I'd use it, rehearsed the sequence in my head the way you rehearse a first lateral inspection. Part by part, step by step, no improvising when it counts. Around 9, I closed the laptop, sat there for a minute in the quiet of the kitchen. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside a truck went past. I thought about my father loading those machines into the liquidation truck. The way he'd moved, careful, methodical, like he was still treating the equipment with respect, even while it was being taken from him. He never got loud about it, never blamed anybody out loud. He just worked the problem until there was no more problem left to work, and when it was done, it was done. I'd learned more from watching him that Thursday morning than from anything else in my life. I went to bed at 10, set no alarm. Didn't need one. I was up at 5. Made eggs, read the trade news on my tablet. Nothing about hostile takeovers or board disputes or manufacturing outsourcing. Just the usual contract awards, industry certifications, a profile of a Tier 1 supplier in Ohio that had just expanded its stamping capacity. Normal Tuesday morning in American manufacturing. The world had no idea that in 4 hours, the future of a small but real piece of Detroit's machining industry was going to be decided in a conference room on the east side. I showered, put on the suit I kept for Ford meetings, and left the house at 7:30. Pulled into the Pruitt Precision parking lot at 8:45. Sat in the Silverado for exactly 2 minutes. Watched through the shop windows. Patrice already at her station, Hank already at the mill. 23 people doing what they came here to do. Then I picked up my folder off the passenger seat, got out of the truck, and walked inside. Conference room was already full when I stepped in at exactly 900. Donnie Mercer sat at the head of the table like he'd already won. Charcoal jacket, gold watch, the practiced ease of someone who'd never once had to prove himself with his hands. Lloyd Mercer sat to his right, stone-faced, arms crossed, the posture of a man who'd already decided how this meeting was going to go. Sylvia Barton was there with her tablet and legal pad, taking notes on everything the way she always did. Beverly Marsh sat in the corner, quiet, watching. Nadine Colby and Clyde Rutherford were near the window, coffees in front of them giving nothing away. And at the far end of the table, Virgil Stanton, Ford motor badge clipped to his jacket, hands folded in front of him, expression unreadable. Donnie saw Virgil and his eyes moved to me for just a fraction of a second. He didn't know why Ford's procurement director was sitting in a Pruitt Precision board meeting. He was about to find out. I walked to the opposite end of the table, set my briefcase down with enough weight that everyone looked up. "Good morning," I said. "Let's get through this efficiently." I slid copies of the shareholder agreement across the table. Section 7, subsection B, highlighted in yellow. Yesterday's termination was not valid, I said. No 2/3 board vote, no written documentation, no 30-day advance notice. 3 separate violations of the shareholder agreement under Michigan corporate law. The termination has no legal standing. Donnie leaned back in his chair. The board is aligned on strategic direction, Walter. This is a formality. Show me the vote, I said. Show me the written resolution authorizing your appointment as acting CEO. Show me the documented board motion approving the Dongguan plan. He looked at his father. Lloyd spoke up. that measured tone wealthy men use when they expect the room to fall in line. Donnie has full authority as acting CEO for all personnel and operational decisions. The board is in agreement on the strategic direction. Which board members voted on his appointment? I looked around the table slowly. Clyde, did you vote on this? Clyde Rutherford set down his coffee. I was told it was being handled. I never saw a formal resolution. Beverly Marsh shook her head. Same. I received an email saying Donnie was stepping into an interim leadership role. I assumed there'd been a proper process. Nadine Colby looked at Lloyd for a moment, then back at me. I was told the board was aligned. I didn't see documentation. Lloyd's jaw tightened. This is a procedural distraction. The substance of the decision, corporate governance doesn't run on assumptions, Sylvia Barton said, not looking up from her tablet. It runs on documented decisions. That's not an opinion, Lloyd. That's the law. The room went quiet. I opened the second folder. There's one more thing you all need to see. I set the equity distribution report on the table and slid copies to each person. Clean printout. Every share. Every transaction. Current as of yesterday morning. As of today, I own 58% of Pruitt Precision Parts. The silence that followed was a different kind of silence than before. The first silence had been uncomfortable. This one was the sound of people doing math in their heads and not liking where it landed. Sylvia picked up the report first, scanned it line by line. Her eyes moved to me, then back to the page. She passed it to Clyde without saying anything. 58%, I said again. Acquired over 5 years. Fair market transactions with willing sellers. Every purchase documented and filed with the state. Nothing hidden, nothing improper. Just not announced. Donnie's face had changed. The practice confidence was still there, but it had gone rigid, like a casting that looks solid until you tap it and hear the hollow. That's he started. When did you last look at the quarterly equity reports? I asked. When did your father? Lloyd reached across and took the document from Clyde. Stared at it, set it down in front of him without speaking. That's when Virgil Stanton cleared his throat. Every head in the room turned toward him. He'd been sitting quietly at the far end of the table for the past 10 minutes, watching, saying nothing. Now he opened his folder and laid 2 pages flat on the table. I'm here representing Ford Motors Procurement Division, he said. His voice was even, the way people sound when they've had hard conversations before and don't need to dress them up. I want to make sure the board understands the terms of the current supply agreement before any decisions are finalized. He slid copies across the table. Section 4, Domestic Manufacturing Compliance. All components manufactured under this contract must be produced within the United States. Any transfer of production to a facility outside the country, without Ford's prior written approval, constitutes material breach. Contract terminates immediately. No cure period. No renegotiation window. He let that sit for a moment. The current contract value is $2.8 million annually. We've been in active discussions about expanding that to $4.1 million beginning next fiscal year, contingent on continued compliance and quality performance. He looked at Donnie. If production moves to Dongguan, that contract ends the same week the move is announced, both the existing agreement and the expansion. Lloyd Mercer was still looking at the equity report. He hadn't looked up since Virgil started talking. Donnie turned to his father. Whatever signal he was looking for, it wasn't coming. Beverly Marsh spoke from the corner. What does this mean for the people on that floor? I looked at her. It means no Dongguan, no gutting the shop to improve quarterly margins, no replacing skilled machinists with overseas labor to make a spreadsheet look better. The 23 people on that floor are the reason Ford renewed in the first place. They're the reason we've had 0 warranty returns in 14 months. They are the asset, not the overhead. Earl Tatum's voice came through the conference room speaker from Tennessee, steady and clear. I move to declare yesterday's termination invalid and restore Walter Pruitt's position as CEO of Pruitt Precision Parts, effective immediately. Seconded, Sylvia said. All in favor, Earl called. Clyde raised his hand. Beverly, Sylvia, Nadine, after a pause that lasted about 3 seconds. That was 4 plus Earl remotely, more than enough. I looked at Donnie, then at Lloyd. Lloyd was still looking at the equity report. He set it down carefully, looked up at me. Something moved across his face. Not quite an apology, not quite respect, Somewhere between the two, he gave a small nod. Then he stood, buttoned his jacket, and walked out. Donnie stood so fast his chair rolled back and hit the wall. "Keep it," he said. "You're going to get squeezed out by overseas competition inside of 5 years anyway." "This whole thing, Donnie," I said. He stopped. I picked up my work gloves from the briefcase, the same ones I'd set on the bench yesterday morning before I walked out. I'd brought them back in deliberately. "The brake caliper batch from yesterday still needs final inspection before it ships." He stared at me for a second, then he walked out. The room settled. People gathered their folders, their tablets, their coffee cups. Virgil shook my hand on his way out. Firm, 2 pumps, the handshake of a man who understood what had just happened and didn't need to say anything more about it. Sylvia was the last one left. She looked at the equity report still sitting on the table, then at me. 5 years, she said. "You were building this for 5 years." "I was protecting it," I said. "There's a difference." She picked up her tablet and left. 6 weeks later, Loretta called. Lloyd Mercer wanted to sell his remaining 22%. Fair market value. His lawyer had used the phrase, "no hard feelings," which Loretta relayed with the tone she uses when she finds something professionally amusing. I thought about it for about 4 seconds. Make the offer. 3 weeks after that, Nolan called from trade school. He was finishing his machining program in the spring. He'd been top of his class on the CMM calibration module. His instructor had told him he had good hands for the work. "Dad, I've been thinking, is there any chance you'd have room for me on the floor? I want to learn it right from the beginning." I was standing at the shop window watching Hank Bowman run a new hire through first auto inspection procedures. Patient, methodical, the same way Earl had once walked Hank through it. The same way my father had walked me through it in a different shop a long time ago. Some things you can't outsource. Some things only transfer one way from one set of hands to the next, in person, over time, through repetition and correction, and the slow accumulation of knowing. "Yeah," I said, "there's room." I hung up and went back to the bench to finish checking the torque specs I'd left unfinished 2 months ago, the morning all of this started. The machines were running steady. No vibration, no drift, good parts going out the door. That was enough. Some things only transfer one way, from one set of hands to the next. That's not a weakness. That's the whole point.